MR.FREEZ, another impressive horse. He's also out of the Dale Romans barn, that, of course, who trains King Zachary. So Dale's got two in here. MR.FREEZ is 12-1. Very interesting. He's 12-1. He was very impressive, winning by 8.5 lengths in the West Virginia Derby. Ran it in a sparkling 147.95, the best time by far at 1.8 miles in this calendar year of 2018. Dale Romans has got him in here for a reason. He's got speed, and as Bob Baffert would call it, more speed. And he's a horse that's going to be interesting to see when he breaks out of the 7. He's going to have to come out of there. How much speed, how willing is he to rate, or does he have the cruising speed to have the lead and still continue to kick on in the stretch? Can he do that against these horses? Because breathing down his neck will be number 8, or likely, you know, with these speed horses, there's going to be a pace scenario. It'll be interesting to see who's going to relax, who's going to inherit the lead, who's going to have the energy in the stretch. And MR.FREEZ right beside him is going to find out directly with McKinzie. He is the 5-2 favorite, despite a prolonged break that's even longer, not only than Gronkowski, like In Still Regard, but longer than In Still Regard's break. His last race was in the San Felipe all the way back in March when he was on the Triple Crown Trail, when he beat Bolt d'Oro in the Santa Anita Derby and had his number taken down, and thus his unblemished, undefeated record was, of course, marked and tarnished by that disqualification. And as we all know, that, of course, led to the story of a horse that you guys know very, very well. His name was Justified when he took McKenzie's place in the Santa Anita Derby when McKinzie had to leave the Triple Crown Trail with that leg injury. McKinzie has not raced since. This is a extremely prolonged layoff, and many are going to wonder, number one, some believe they're still scratching in their heads as to why he's the favorite. Some believe it's because he's, you know, trained by Baffert, and because of his potential. He's by street sense. He's named after, of course, as I said before, Brad McKinzie, and he's owned by Mike Pegram, the man who, of course, encouraged Bob Baffert to switch from quarter horses to thoroughbreds. Again, one thing about McKinzie, coming out of the 8, he's going to have to show speed. It'll be very interesting to see what his energy level is with this prolonged layoff as to how he's going to fare, because there's going to be some burners in here. But again, like the Kentucky Derby, the Travers, or any Grade 1 race, something is going to happen that's going to be unexpected. Something always happens that you don't expect to happen, and in the case of some of these horses, just like with Good Magic and the Travers, sometimes even the best laid plans go wrong sometimes. So something like that could very well happen. McKenzie's coming out of the 8. Now, again, back to his layoff of all these months. Bob Baffert has put some works into him here in the last month and a half, starting in the first part of August, where he had a 3 furlong work, 2 5-furlong breezes, and a 6 furlong blowout as heading toward the end of August. Then as September rolls around in preparation, in the lead up to this event, he's had two 7 furlong works, and about 3 or 4 days before this race had a very nice 4 furlong breeze. But as Bob Baffert once said, you know, 10 works, one race is better than 10 works because it sharpens you up. So that's the one thing about McKinzie. He's going to be doing this off of works and that raw ability that everybody thinks he has against a pretty good field. And we're going to find out if he's going to be able to overcome some horses that might be fatigued, or even if they run their A game. He's just got so much ability, he's going to be able to prevail. Certainly Bob Baffert wants to see, like a lot of folks that are taking a hard look at McKinzie, him run well enough to give him the encouragement to try the Breeders' Cup Classic, and if that's not the case, maybe try some other race. But and we'll just have to wait and see if that superstardom that I've even been talking about is going to emerge. This is the day that McKinzie gets a chance to be another player along with some of these other horses, aforementioned Hofburg, Core Beliefs trying to reestablish himself, In Still Regard off this prolonged layoff, try to get in the mix, Axelrod trying to be a new player in the 3-year-old division off of these quality wins in these graded stakes, and MR.FREEZ, who's, as I said, impressive in the West Virginia Derby. There's, just like the Travers, it's an open invitation for someone to burst through the door and be one of the, you know, right now Catholic Boy is the leader of the division as far as horses in training in lieu of Justify's retirement. Who else is going to help assist him in running the asylum with these 3-year-olds? And this is the opportunity that is being afforded these horses with $1 million on the line today on September the 22nd for this Pennsylvania Derby. So, as I said, trigger warning is right beside McKinzie. So you have MR.FREEZ out of the 7, McKinzie out of the 8, trigger warning, who was 6th in the Travers Stakes, after being head bobbed right at the wire in the Indiana Derby. It was a good race for him. He ran coming out of the number 1 hole. I thought a pretty decent race. He's going to have to improve. He's getting a distance that probably is a little more ideal for him. He's coming out. He's 20-1. So if you believe that he can be the Connect of 2018, and I use Connect, trained by Chad Brown, in 2016, he ran 6th behind Arrowgate's record run, in which he smoked American Freedom, his stablemate, out of the Baffert barn, and Gunrunner, and of course the Preakness winner, Exaggerator. Connect was 6th that day. He came back to run against the Preakness winner and Exaggerator, and the Derby winner, Nyquist, who skipped the Travers after a 4th place run on the Haskell, where he lost to Exaggerator that day. American Freedom was 2nd, by the way. Gunrunner finished 5th. But in that Pennsylvania Derby, Nyquist was in there as the Derby winner, and Exaggerator, the Preakness champion, and Gunrunner was also in there, and Connect edged Gunrunner to win that race as Exaggerator, and Nyquist finished up the money, would never be seen on the racetrack again as they were both retired. Is, trigger warning, the Connect of 2018. He comes out of the number 9 beside Mr. Freeze and McKinzie once again in 7 and 8. He's going to show speed. Who's going to be the speed, and will this speed hold up, and how will he perform? Trigger warning, he's at 20-1. Then in the number 10 hole on the outside is Bravazzo. Now Bravazzo has shown in the past that he could use some pressing tactics, some tactical speed. Wayne Lukas will tell you that he's fit and tight enough to do certain things. I do believe Wayne is going to take the flyer. He's going to take the position that we'd like to get out of there in the number 10 and just slide on in and try to get in the 2 or 3 path and get a skimming trip. It's not going to be easy. He might even have to be used up. And going a mile and 8, even though it's a shorter route of ground, you know, we don't know how fresh he is coming into this off the Travers, where he really ran a hard race on a demanding track. I believe that the conservative approach is going to really be employed here, and then he's going to have to navigate a trip and hopefully come with a big run. And this is where Bravazzo hasn't won a stake race since, you know, the month of February, early March, and this is his opportunity, along with the others, to prove himself at a mile and an 8, the distance that it could be argued might be better for him than the mile and a quarter. He ran a good race in the Travers. This is his opportunity to get in the win column and get his picture taken, or certainly run well enough in a race that, in theory, doesn't set up well for him and probably is even less beneficial to him coming out of the 10, to run well in the Breeders' Cup. So if he runs well enough, you know, given that he's not in the ideal post at a distance that, if you want to believe Wayne Lukas, or those who believe he can go a mile and a quarter at a distance that isn't quite, you know, as good for him as the mile and a quarter will be at Churchill Downs for the Breeders' Cup Classic in Louisville, then that's what, you know, the Bravazzo connections and those who support him are going to be hoping for. And again, you know, he's 6-1. So there's still value on him money-wise if you want to use him underneath, if you don't think he's going to win, but he can finish in the top 4. It'll be very, very interesting to see how he fares along with the other 9 horses in here. So that's your field for the Pennsylvania Derby. 10 3-year-olds going a mile and an 8 at Parks Racing for the $1 million in the year of our Lord 2018. And we'll have a great Pennsylvania Derby recap right here on the CS Racing Report.